Tomorrow night, as April 3rd deepens toward its final hours, the moon enters Virgo. And if you have been feeling what I think you have been feeling, that low, grinding pressure, that sense of a mind that simply will not stop running its lists, then what is happening in the sky right now is not unrelated to what has been happening inside you. The Virgo moon moves directly into opposition with Neptune in Pisces as it forms. That tension, the precise against the dissolve, the catalogue against the fog, is the friction that has been building since the end of March. The sky is about to put something down, and so, finally, are you. You already know this is happening. You have been feeling it in your jaw. There is a grinding that has been with you, not loudly, not in a way that other people would notice. Just that low, constant pressure of a mind that refuses to stop working even when you tell it to. You lie down at night and the lists begin. Not pleasant planning, more like inventory. The mental equivalent of going through every drawer in the house, noting what is missing, what is broken, what was supposed to be handled months ago. You wake at 2 or 3 in the morning with a specific thought. Not a fear exactly, more like a fact that arrived late. Something you should have seen sooner. And you just lie there with it, the room dark and quiet around you, and the thought will not go back where it came from. Stay with me through this one, because there is something specific about this configuration, about the moon in Virgo opposing Neptune right now in early April, with everything else that has been moving through the sky this month, that I want to explain. And it matters more than the transit alone. I will get to it as we go. Thousands of people are watching this in the same narrow window of ours. Right now, on different sides of the world, people who have been carrying the same unnamed heaviness are sitting here together, and most of them have no idea the others exist. You are not isolated in what you have been feeling. You are part of a collective that is moving through the same passage at exactly the same time. That is not nothing. If this is resonating with you, if you woke up this morning and felt that particular quality of tired that sleep does not fix, leave a comment below. Write, "My mind is ready to rest," not as a wish, as a declaration, because something in the next few days is going to make that possible, in a way it has not been recently. Like this video if it is finding you where you are. Subscribe if you want to move through these transits together. And now, let us go deeper. Something has been off about the last few weeks. Not catastrophically off. Nothing you could point to on a calendar and explain clearly to someone else. Just a persistent low-grade wrongness, like a frequency you can almost hear but cannot quite locate. And because you cannot locate it, you cannot fix it. And because you cannot fix it, the mind keeps running, looking for the source, trying to diagnose what cannot be diagnosed through thinking alone. Let me try to name some of what you have likely been carrying. There is the sleep thing first, because it is the most physical, and because you feel it every single morning. You have not been sleeping the way you used to sleep. Even if you are getting enough hours, and many of you are not, the quality has changed. You wake with a residue, not quite a dream you can fully recall, but the emotional trace of one. Something old, something you thought you were further from. You open your eyes in the morning, and before the day's tasks arrive, before you check the phone or remember what is on the calendar, there is this rawness, like a wound that healed on the surface but did not fully close underneath. You do not know what it is exactly, you just know it is there, and you move through your morning carrying it, hoping the day will dissolve it. Sometimes it does. More often, it waits for night. The fatigue you have been experiencing is specific, and I want to be precise about it, because it gets misread. It is not the fatigue of having done too much, though you may have also done too much. It is the fatigue of holding too many things in an unresolved state simultaneously. Every open loop in your life has a small but real energetic cost. When the number of open loops reaches a certain threshold, when too many things are started but not finished, said but not fully resolved, felt but not fully processed, the cumulative weight becomes its own kind of exhaustion. You are tired in the way you get tired when your nervous system has been running on low-level alert for so long that it has forgotten what it feels like to fully, genuinely stand down. Not tired from exertion, tired from vigilance. And then there are the things that are surfacing from below. In odd moments, in the car, in the shower, in the space between one task and the next, old images are arriving. old conversations, people you have not thought about consciously for years, their faces returning with an unexpected clarity, not as haunting exactly, more as something being returned to you. Material you set down somewhere along the road because you did not have the capacity to carry it at the time. You were in the middle of a life that demanded your full functional presence, and there was simply no room to go as deep as certain things required. So you went as far as you could, and then you kept moving, because that was what the situation called for. And now, years later, sometimes decades later, with Neptune doing its long, slow work on the barriers between the surface and the deep, that material is becoming available again. Not to destroy you, to be completed, to receive the attention it was always owed. Your relationship to other people has shifted slightly in the last few weeks, and you may have noticed it without being able to explain it. The people you love are fine. This is not about them. But connection has been requiring more energy than it used to. Even easy conversations have a texture to them that they did not have a few months ago. You find yourself needing more solitude, and then feeling slightly guilty about needing it. And that guilt adds another small weight on top of everything else. Social interactions that used to restore you are now sometimes the thing you need to recover from. This is not a sign that something is wrong with your relationships. It is a sign that you are running low in a way that does not get replenished by company. What you need right now is internal. Time that belongs entirely to you. And part of you already knows this, has been knowing this, and has been postponing it because there is always something else that needs attending to first. There is also something specific happening with how you are sitting with decisions. Not the large, obvious ones. Sometimes the large ones come into clarity under this kind of pressure. The harder ones right now are the medium-sized decisions, the ones where both paths are reasonable, the ones where the right answer depends on knowing something about yourself that you are currently in the process of renegotiating. Whether to stay in something or leave it, whether to keep pushing in a direction that has been working but no longer feels right, whether to give more of yourself to something or finally, to pull something back. These are not answerable from your current position. Not because you lack intelligence or the relevant information, but because you are mid-process. You are between one version of yourself and the next. And decisions made in the middle of a genuine transition tend to serve neither the person you were nor the person you are becoming. So the decisions stay open. And open decisions cost energy. And the energy expenditure adds to the fatigue that was already there. And then there is the critical voice, the one that has been particularly active lately. Virgo energy in its shadow form is nothing if not exacting, and the build-up to this moon has been waking the part of you that catalogues every gap between how things are and how they should be. Every place where you fell short of your own expectations, every commitment that slid, every area of your life where the current reality does not match the standard you hold for yourself. This voice is not new. It has been with you since childhood, most likely. That particular internal auditor, with its comprehensive awareness of every place you have been insufficient. But lately, it has been especially thorough, speaking in specifics, coming in right when you are trying to rest. And there is something exhausting about being both the one who falls short and the one who keeps the record. What all of these experiences have in common: the broken sleep, the specific fatigue, the surfacing of old material, the effortful connection, the impossible decisions, the loud critical voice, is this: you have been living at the outer limit of your own capacity to hold things in suspension, and the sky is about to give you the structure to begin putting things down in their right places. Finally, that is what the Virgo moon in opposition to Neptune, arriving in the first days of April, is genuinely here to offer. Let us talk about what is actually happening in the sky. The moon moves into Virgo on the night of April 3rd, and its first major aspect is an opposition with Neptune, which has been sitting in Pisces for over a decade. Neptune entered Pisces in 2011, and it has been doing its long, slow, invisible work ever since, dissolving certainties, making solid identities more porous, softening the edges between who you are and who you might be if the structures you built around yourself were less fixed. This is not damage, this is a tidal process. Neptune does not destroy, it returns things to their elemental state, It takes what was rigid and makes it available again. For people in the 45 to 65 age range, this Neptune transit has often felt like this. The life you built in your 30s and 40s, the career story, the relationship architecture, the version of yourself you worked to construct and maintain, has been gradually growing more questionable, not collapsing, not wrong necessarily, just less certain than it used to feel. The container that once felt solid enough to organize your identity around has been revealing its permeability. And this is deeply disorienting in a way that is difficult to talk about, because on the surface, everything may look completely intact. The life is still there, the job, the house, the relationships. But the meaning that used to be reliably generated by those things has been growing quieter. The certainty that used to accompany your sense of yourself has been softening. And you have been living inside that softening, often without a framework for what is happening. Neptune in Pisces at maximum saturation now in these final months before it moves into Aries has been like a long, slow rain that has been falling on packed earth for years. On the surface, things look the same, but the earth below has been saturated. And what the Virgo moon now entering into opposition creates is this: a stillness after the long rain. The opportunity for what has been absorbed to begin to settle and clarify. Imagine water that has been stirred continuously for a long time by many hands in circumstances that required constant motion. Everything mixed, the sediment suspended throughout the fluid, nothing settled, nothing clear. And then a moment of stillness. The stirring stops. And slowly, with no effort required, things begin to find their own level. The heavy material descends, the clear water rises, the glass that was opaque begins to show you what is inside it. This is the image to carry. The Virgo moon is the stillness that allows the settling, not forced organization, natural clarification, not the willpower to fix everything, the conditions in which what has been suspended can finally come to rest. Virgo is the sign of discernment, of the careful, precise intelligence that does not panic in the presence of complexity, but instead looks at it methodically and asks, what is this actually? Where does it go? What is true here, separated from the story I have been telling about it, separated from the wish I have been maintaining, separated from the fear that has been distorting the picture? Virgo, at its most evolved, is not the critic, it is the editor. And there is an enormous difference between those two things. The critic wants to find what is wrong. The editor wants to find what is true. The editor's question is not, why did this fail? It is, what is actually here? Now add to this the fact that April has not been a quiet month for the sky. Mars has been active in Aries for weeks, creating an urgency, a forward pressure, a sense that everything needs to happen immediately. Your nervous system has been running at an elevated baseline because of this. The Virgo moon does not cancel Mars, but it gives the Mars energy something it has been missing: a container, a channel. Instead of urgency dispersed in all directions at once, creating that particular frantic quality that has been in the air this month, the Virgo moon offers the possibility of focus, of triage, of being able to say, finally, this is what actually needs my attention first, and everything else can wait. This is the practical miracle of a Virgo moon after a period of Neptunian dissolution and Mars in Aries urgency. Not grand transformation, not the sudden arrival of clarity about everything. The quieter, more sustainable gift of knowing where to start. One thing, the right thing in its right place, and then the next. The transit is asking something specific of you, not what it will deliver, what it is asking. It is asking for discernment without judgment. The critical voice that has been loud and specific lately, cataloging the gaps, itemizing the shortfalls, that voice is Virgo in its shadow. The invitation of this moon at its fullest is something genuinely different. Not criticism, clarity. The capacity to look at your life with precision and see what is actually true without the distortion of self-attack on one side or the equally distorting comfort of self-protection on the other. Both of those distortions cost you your ability to see just what is real here. That is what this transit is asking. Not perfection, not a renovation of your entire life, just honesty about what is. Now let us go into what is actually moving through you. There is a particular way that extended periods of internal turbulence, of holding too many unresolved states for too long, eventually produce a kind of readiness, not a desire for change necessarily, not excitement about transformation, just a deep structural fatigue with the cost of maintaining the current state, an exhaustion of the maintenance itself, the energy required to keep everything in suspension, to manage the internal weather, to navigate around the things that have not been resolved. All of that costs something. And at a certain point, the cost exceeds the protection. And something in you arrives quietly and without announcement at the place where something has to land. Something has to become real. The suspension has to end. This is where many of you are right now. Not at the beginning of upheaval. At the end of the tolerance for continuing as you have been. And this matters enormously to name correctly because it is often misread. People in this state sometimes interpret what they feel as defeat, as the exhaustion of someone who has given up, or who is going under, or who has simply run out. It is not any of those things. It is the specific, particular exhaustion that arrives just before the ground shifts. The weight of having held too much for too long, and the body finally saying at last, something has to be put down. Something has to become real. The breaking open that a Virgo moon opposite Neptune initiates is not violent. This is important to say clearly, especially for an audience that has already been through real losses and real disruptions, times when the ground genuinely fell away and took real time to rebuild. This is not that kind of breaking. It is the shell releasing what has grown too large to stay inside it. You have been growing inside a container that was right for who you were when you built it, but you have outgrown it, and what you are feeling, the pressure, the friction, the low wrongness you cannot locate, is partly the feeling of that growth pressing against walls that were built for an earlier version of yourself. The shell did its job. This is not a story of something that failed. The container held you while you were growing. It protected you through seasons when you needed to be protected, when exposure would have cost more than you could have managed. The shell was the right thing, and now it is too small. And the pressure inside it is the signal not that something is wrong with you, but that you have grown past the boundaries that once contained you. The cracking is not collapse. It is the structure releasing what it was always holding toward. What is coming up from beneath you right now is almost certainly not new material. That is the defining characteristic of what Neptune in Pisces returns to the surface. It is old, older than this year, older in some cases than you would expect. Old grief that was never finished, not because you were weak or avoidant, but because at the time the grief arrived, you were in the middle of a life that required your full, functional presence. There was no room to go as deep as the grief required. So you went as far as you could, and then continued forward because that was the only responsible thing. The grief was real. Your response to it was real. The remaining depth of it simply waited. And now, with Neptune doing its final saturating work and the Virgo moon offering structure, that depth is becoming available again. Not to undo you, to be finished. For others, what is surfacing is a version of yourself that was set aside. There is a self that existed before certain decisions were made, before certain roles were claimed or assigned, before you became the person who handles things, who holds it together, who can be relied upon absolutely. That earlier self had desires that were its own, not filtered through what was needed, what was practical, what was safe, a different relationship to risk, a different sense of what mattered, what was worth pursuing, what made life feel like it was being lived at full capacity rather than managed within acceptable parameters. That earlier self was not naive or irresponsible. It was simply before the editing began. And it has been waiting in the way that suppressed things wait, with more patience than you might expect, for the conditions that would allow it to be seen again. Not returned to, seen, recognized, given a moment of genuine acknowledgement. Because here is the long pattern that many of you have been living inside, across multiple decades and multiple chapters, the pattern of editing the full-sized version of yourself down to fit. Not consciously, not with resentment necessarily, and not in one dramatic moment of decision. In accumulation, in the gradual layering of small adjustments made in the direction of what was needed by others, what was practical, what would not alarm anyone, what would make things run more smoothly. The full-sized version of your desires, your ambitions, your way of being in the world, the particular quality of aliveness that is native to you and no one else, somewhere along the road, that version began to be managed, trimmed, held at a reasonable, responsible distance from the center of your actual life. And you did this so gradually, with such genuinely good intentions, that it became difficult to even see it as a pattern. It just became the way things were. The Virgo moon is not asking you to regret this. Regret is not what this transit is offering. What it is offering is clarity, the specific locating clarity of being able to see, without self-attack, where the editing has been operating. Not the edited life as a problem, the editing as information. Where have you been shrinking to fit? In your work, in your closest relationship, in the way you answer when someone asks how you are doing, in the gap between the desire you express and the desire you actually have. The gap does not have to remain, that is the news. You are in a threshold right now. Not at the beginning of one, not at the end, in the middle. And the middle of a threshold is its own specific, demanding, disorienting experience. I want to stay here for a moment, because this audience, people who have been living for 50 or more years, who have crossed real thresholds before, understands this territory in a way that a younger person might theoretically grasp, but not yet know from the inside. The in-between is not abstract for you, it is Tuesday. It is the specific texture of an ordinary morning when the person you used to be has already in some essential way departed, but the person you are becoming has not yet fully arrived. It is making coffee in a kitchen that is the same kitchen it was 5 years ago, and feeling for a moment like a visitor in your own life. Not unhappily, not always. Just with this strange, untethered quality that comes from being temporarily unfastened from the story of yourself. The story that used to organize your days into coherence. The story that told you who you were, what you were doing, what it was for. That story is being revised. And living inside the revision before the new version has clarified. That is where many of you are. Some of you are in this space because something concrete has changed. Children who have grown and left. A career that is ending or transforming in ways that are redefining your sense of what you have to contribute and who you are without the role. A relationship that has deepened past the point of easy definition or thinned past the point of comfortable maintenance. A body that is offering a different set of realities than it did 15 years ago. Not lesser realities necessarily, but different ones, requiring a different relationship, a different kind of attention. These are not metaphors for the threshold. They are the threshold made specific and daily and unavoidable. Others are in it less visibly. On the surface, your life looks continuous. The responsibilities are the same. The people who depend on you are still there, still depending. The calendar looks the way it has looked for years, but underneath, something has shifted in your relationship to all of it. The meaning that used to be readily generated by familiar things has grown quieter. The satisfaction that used to arrive reliably after certain accomplishments is arriving less reliably, or arriving and then dissolving faster than it used to. And you cannot tell from inside the experience whether this is wisdom or loss, whether this is the natural deepening that comes from having lived long enough to see through easy satisfactions, or whether it is something going wrong, something fading, something ending. This uncertainty, the inability to distinguish in real time between becoming and diminishing, is one of the hardest and least discussed experiences of this life stage. And the fact that most people you know seem to be functioning without apparent difficulty makes it lonelier. What I want to offer you from inside this transit is this: the disorientation you are feeling is not evidence of diminishment. It is evidence of transition, and the two feel nearly identical from the inside. They produce the same confusion, the same groundlessness, the same question of who you are if you are not the person you have been. But one of them is loss, and one of them is becoming. And what the Virgo moon is offering, in its opposition with Neptune, which has been dissolving the old containers, is the beginning of knowing the difference. The beginning of the clarity that allows you to say, this is what is actually ending, and this is what is actually beginning. And neither one is what I feared. Something is beginning, not fully arrived, not announced with any particular dramatic quality, but beginning. You may have already noticed it in the kind of small ways that are easy to discount, the passing thought quality of an insight that deserves to be taken more seriously. A decision that felt completely impossible a few weeks ago is beginning to feel not easy, but possible. Not because the external circumstances have shifted necessarily, but because something internal has. You have been in the slow process of releasing a version of events that was never true. A version maintained for protection, organized around a fear, dependent on keeping certain things from being seen. And as that version loosens, reality has been coming into sharper focus. And reality, even when it is genuinely difficult, is more workable than the managed version of it. You can act in reality. You can make real decisions in reality. You cannot make real decisions from inside the story you have been maintaining about it. The new steadiness that is forming is different in character from the old steadiness. This distinction matters enormously, so I want to be precise about it. The old steadiness, the one built in your 30s and 40s, the one you organized your life around and came to depend on, was constructed from the outside in. You arranged your circumstances, your relationships, your routines, in ways that produced a feeling of safety. You built containers and kept things inside them, and it worked, largely. It produced a life that was manageable, often meaningful, sometimes genuinely good. But it was fragile in the specific way that all outside-in structures are fragile, dependent on things staying arranged the way you arrange them. When circumstances shifted, as they always do, the safety had to be renegotiated. The container had to be rebuilt. The work of maintaining stability was never quite finished. What is beginning to form now is different. It is the quieter, less architecturally impressive, but considerably more durable steadiness that comes from having been in the room with a truth you feared and not been destroyed by it. From having gone, even partially, to the bottom of something, old grief, old self-knowledge, old desire, and found that the bottom was survivable, that you did not fall apart, that the full-sized version of yourself, when you let it exist for a moment without immediately editing it back down, is not dangerous, is not too much, is not, in fact, what you were managing it in order to protect against. The water is settling, not clear throughout yet, not ordered, but settling, and in the places where clarity is returning, what you can see is beginning to be less frightening than the fog was. The direction is becoming perceptible. Not a destination, no plan with steps and timelines, nothing that can be put in a calendar. A direction. The way you can sometimes sense the presence of the ocean before you can see it. A faint but unmistakable orientation. And you are beginning, quietly, without announcement, to move. Now let us talk about what you can actually do with this energy. 3 practices, each specific to this configuration, each arising directly from what this particular sky is activating. The first practice is writing the real list, not your to-do list. The other one, the list that does not get written because writing it makes things too real, too acknowledged, too much in need of a response. The list of what is actually unresolved in your interior life right now. Not the tasks, the states, the relationship you are not sure about, the career question you have been deferring for months, maybe longer, the thing you said you would do with the second half of your life that you have not yet started, the feeling you have been managing rather than truly feeling, the version of yourself you have been promising yourself you would return to when things settled down, and things have not settled down, and you are beginning to wonder if they ever will on their own. The Virgo moon is the perfect container for this list because Virgo does not catastrophize, it catalogues. There is a difference that matters enormously. Catastrophizing takes something unresolved and spirals it toward its worst possible form, the disaster at the end of the thread. Cataloging takes something unresolved and simply notes, this is here, it exists, it is real, it needs attention. Writing the real list, the list of what is actually living in unresolved states in your inner and outer world, is not the same as solving those things. It does not have to lead immediately to action. It is the first act of organization. It is the Virgo moon doing its work through your hand. And the effect on the nervous system is immediate and measurable. The body relaxes when things are named. The nervous system's job is to alert you to unresolved threats. When you write the list, you are communicating to it. I see these things. I am not pretending they are not here. They do not need to keep alerting me. I have taken note. The alerting can rest. The resistance you will feel is, this is going to make me anxious. And the answer is yes, briefly. And then, and this is the key, less anxious than you are right now, carrying all of it without acknowledgement. What creates and maintains anxiety is not the things themselves. It is the combination of the things being real and the refusal to look at them directly. Write the list. Let it be written. It will not grow larger on paper than it already is in your body. It is already there. The paper just makes it visible, and visible things can be worked with. The second practice is a redirection for the 2 in the morning. When you wake at that hour, and many of you will in the days around this transit, and the mind begins its inventory, its assessment of everything that has not been resolved, its running of the calculations that will never converge because not all the variables are available. Do not fight it, and do not follow it down its preferred path. Instead, ask it a different question. Not what needs to be solved, not what did I do wrong, not even what do I feel. Ask what is actually real right now, in this moment, in this body, in this specific room. Not the past and not the future. What is real in the present tense of this exact moment? Your breath, the weight of the blankets, the temperature of the room, the quality of the dark, whether it is the dark of 3 in the morning, which has a different texture than midnight, where in your body there is ease right now, and where there is tension. The specific physical fact of being a living body in a bed. This is not avoidance of the thoughts. It is a redirection from the anxious spinning of the mind to the actual ground of the body, and the ground, the specific sensory present tense reality of your physical existence, is where Virgo lives. Virgo is an earth sign. It does not transcend the body. It trusts it. It knows that the body's present tense reality is the only information that is verifiably true at any given moment, and returning to that information when the mind is spiraling through unverifiable futures and irresolvable pasts is one of the most effective paths back to sleep, and over time back to the quality of rest that has been missing. The resistance to this practice is, this feels too simple for problems that are this complicated. And the answer is, yes. And that is precisely why it works. The mind's complexity has not yet learned to subvert it. The body's present tense reality is not a story. You cannot argue with it. You cannot improve it or catastrophize it. It is just what is true right now, in the room where you are lying. And what is true right now is almost always less unbearable than what the mind constructs at 2 in the morning. The third practice is for the decision that has been impossible. Do not try to solve the decision. Instead, find the question underneath it. This is the most important instruction and the one most likely to be skipped because it feels like delaying the answer. It is not delaying. It is finding the real question, which is the only path to the real answer. Most decisions that have been sitting in unresolved states for more than a few weeks are unresolved not because the information is insufficient or the intelligence is lacking, but because the apparent question, stay or go, yes or no, more or less, is not actually the question. Underneath the apparent question is almost always a question about identity, or value, or desire. What do I actually want, if I am being fully honest and not managing anything? What kind of person am I choosing to be at this point in my life, with the time that is genuinely remaining? What am I willing to keep paying for, in all the currencies that matter? Time, energy, self-respect, the version of myself I can live with, and what am I no longer willing to pay? The Virgo moon in opposition to Neptune is the perfect sky for finding the question beneath the question. Neptune's long dissolution has been loosening the fixed stories you have been using to manage the decision, the stories that kept the real question from becoming fully visible. And Virgo's arriving clarity can now be brought to what Neptune has revealed. You may not solve the decision in the next 2 days, but you may find the real question. And finding the real question is most of the work. Once you know what you are actually deciding, The decision often becomes far simpler than the one you thought you were facing. Now, 3 signs will feel this configuration with particular intensity in the next 48 hours, and I want to speak to those directly. For Virgo, this moon is in your own sign, activating your first house, the house of self, of identity, of how you present yourself to the world, and how you understand yourself in private. The clarity available to you right now is unusually precise, and the invitation is to direct that precision inward rather than outward. Your native gift for seeing gaps between what is and what could be, apply it now to your own unlived possibilities. The full-sized version of what you want, of what you know, of what you are capable of, what has been edited down and why, and whether it is time to stop editing. The critical voice will be loudest for you over these days. The task is not to silence it, but to redirect it toward what is actually yours to build. For Pisces, the moon in your opposite sign creates a direct opposition across your chart, putting a spotlight on the ways your beautiful native capacity for dissolution, for going fluid, for empathy that has no hard edges, for transcendence of ordinary separateness, has been costing you in concrete, daily terms. The invitation here is integration, not the elimination of what you are. Your depth does not have to come at the expense of your practical life. Your capacity to dissolve into experience is a gift, and it is also the thing that makes daily structure feel like a kind of violence. The Virgo moon is not asking you to become less of what you are. It is asking you to build enough container to protect it, enough order to give your depth somewhere to live that does not also mean you cannot function. For Gemini, the moon forms a square to your sign over these days, creating a productive friction between your native way of holding multiple truths simultaneously, the twin capacity for seeing every side, for holding paradox without needing it to resolve, and the Virgo demand for singular clarity. You know more than one thing is true. You always have. The invitation right now is not to choose between the truths, but to choose which one needs your most sustained, present, embodied attention in this specific moment. Not permanently, not as a declaration of who you are, just right now, of the several real things you know, which one is asking for you to stay with it. What would it mean to give that one your full focus, even briefly, without maintaining all the others simultaneously? You stayed. 40 minutes if you have been here from the beginning. 40 minutes of turning toward your own interior life, which is not, for most people, navigating what you are navigating at this life stage, the default direction. The default direction is outward, toward the things that need doing, the people who need tending, the situations that need managing. The inward direction, the choice to spend 40 minutes with your own experience rather than moving away from it. That is a specific act. And it deserves to be recognized as one. You came here with something, some version of that grinding mind, that 2 in the morning waking, that fatigue that sleep is not fixing. You named it perhaps in a comment, or you held it quietly while someone else named it for you. Either way, you stayed, and something in the staying is already the beginning of what this transit is offering. The water is settling, not because you forced it, not because you solved the decisions or finished the lists or resolved the old grief or made the impossible conversation happen, because settling is what water does when the conditions finally allow it, and you have been creating those conditions, slowly, without necessarily knowing it, through the very act of paying sustained attention to your inner life. Every time you sat with something difficult instead of running from it, every time you went toward the thing that was uncomfortable rather than away from it, every time you chose to know yourself more fully rather than managing yourself more efficiently, the settling is the result of that work. Not all at once, but beginning now. The Virgo moon is not asking you to be perfect. That is always the risk with Virgo, the beautiful exacting quality of this sign becoming the thing that turns against the self, cataloging all the ways you have not yet arrived. What this moon is actually asking is simpler and harder. See clearly. That is all. See what is true in your life with as much honesty as you can bring to it, without the distortion of self-attack on one side and without the distortion of self-protection on the other. Both of those distortions cost you your vision, just what is real. And then trust what you see, even when what you see is not yet finished, even when the picture is only partially clear. Trust the clarity that is available. It is enough to take one step. It is enough to put one thing down in its right place. The rest follows. Before you go, leave one more comment. Write, "The water is settling," not as a wish or a hope or a thing you are working toward, as a recognition. Something about being here, staying through this, letting yourself be found by it, something shifted, even if you cannot name what. Like this if it found you where you are. Subscribe so we move through what comes next together. For the days ahead, for the particular strange grace of a Virgo moon doing its work on a sky that has been churning since the beginning of this year, may you find, in the clarity that is beginning to arrive, not the pressure to organize everything at once, but the quiet relief of knowing where one thing belongs, just one, and then the next. That is enough. That is more than enough. That has always been enough.